So, why is it that comic professionals feel the need to be antagonistic against fans? Well, right there, just by my very question, a lot of comic professionals will oppose it. I'll go, block. But there is something there because everybody has a choice not to say everything on their mind or not to tweet every little thing. But in some cases, people kind of come out of the woodwork to say, f these guys. Why? What's the benefit of it? Well, I'm going to try and get into at least what I've heard of why, and I don't promise any answers, but it may be a fun conversation. Why not? Hey everybody, this is Perch. I got the question, the request to say, why is it, why is it that several comic professionals, particularly ones that are outside the mainstream, but that are lower in their careers, let's say, why is it they feel the need to go on Twitter or go on social media and insult a portion of their fan base? Why bother with that? Why isn't it easier to ignore? And I give the advice all the time that I think it's wisest to ignore people who are obviously starting to stir up trouble. And you've probably seen the reaction. And whenever I do a video where I say, hey, you should ignore kind of this nonsense that's going on there because it's not worth your time, you're just giving them money and attention, I get downvotes. I get absolutely people come in and they're like, nope, nope. And I get these very passionate arguments of people saying, how would you feel if a comic professional insulted you? Well, I know how I'd feel because that's happened many times before. How would you feel if somebody spit on your face? Wouldn't you want them to die? And it's like, I mean, no, I guess no, but that's an argument that has no end to it. Why do people do things like this? For attention, for to try and fit in to a group because they've got nothing else to say, and this is going to be a guaranteed way to get some argument. I mean, I've sat at a convention as late as last year, so Emerald City Comic Con 2019, sitting with a very nice woman who the internet hates, and not the whole internet, but a portion of the internet hates. And she decides to tweet, "F Comicsgate." That's it. And I said, why are you bothering with that? Like, what is the point of what you're doing? What is, I was trying to say it friendly. I'm not, going to reveal to her that I, have a Winnie the Pooh avatar and say the stuff is all silly because that's, I don't know, I'm a douche that way, I guess. Anyway, I say, what is the point? And this woman grins and said, it's bait. And I said, oh, yeah, I said, it's effective bait. I said, some people are definitely kind of come into this and they're going to retweet it. And like 6 months from now, people are still going to be mentioning the fact that you made this tweet. Because generally you haven't said a lot about this stuff. You've been kind of out of it. So why get into it now? And I get that it's bait, but why are you trying to catch a fish? And she's like, oh, it's just fun to see the responses. And then I'll block a bunch of them. And she kind of giggled, and then and I'm like sitting there and like, okay, I had some comics I needed signed, and we're having a drink, and I'm thinking to myself, I still don't get the point. I get that if you're bored and you want some attention, you put some bait out there, you get some people to leap at it, and then I guess you go, oh, look at these people attacking me, and then you block them. But and this is where I feel like a lot of you in the audience, because I see it in the responses. I do videos saying, let's not throw parades when people get fired and that kind of stuff. I feel like I'm from a different planet at times because for many people, I think they completely understand the value of that scenario I just rolled out. They get it. To them, there's some intrinsic value to baiting people into giving you a bunch of responses, and that's exciting on some level. I talk to other writers and artists and editors and writer artists, and I've mentioned this before. Like, I don't get the sport, and I can only say the ones that are either successful or seem confident in themselves go, yeah, I don't get it either. It seems like a huge waste of time. Like if somebody's going to be crazy to you online, then block them, mute them, do whatever you have to do. But going out of your way to purposefully try and encourage people to be mad, like what's the end game there? And the answer is there isn't one. It is attention. It is sport. It's basically somebody saying, I have nothing better to do. I'm curious to see if I can get some people to dance like puppets to my behavior, and let's see what can happen. Now, you might ask, like, what compels somebody to want to do that? And I'm not a therapist. I couldn't tell you, but I mean, it could be a number of things. It can be just basic, boredom. It can be, the person didn't get enough attention as a child and is now striving for some. It can be that they're depressed and have deep inner feelings of worthlessness inside of themselves. And this is a way for them to kind of, uh, act out and see if they can get some people who are really horrible, and they can say, well, I'm not as horrible as that person replying to me. And sometimes it's like I say, it's being part of a crowd. Unfortunately, this dynamic has existed and it's not going away, where comic pros, some of them, um, have this very adversarial relationship with a group, and vice versa. Let's be fair about it. The group that they're adversarial about is adversarial toward them. So both groups dislike each other. And sometimes to be a member of that crowd, you virtue signal. I do think it goes the other way from time to time as well. I think people come in and they don't really care about this pro, but they're like, yeah, look at this SJW cover, yeah, and then they're hoping to get some likes, and everybody wants validation. At the end of the day, that's a lot of what it is. In the comic industry, it's slightly different because there are pockets of it where you will not be fully accepted unless you spurg out on Twitter with this kind of stuff. And again, and then there's a third reason, and the third reason is the one I guess I can appreciate. I don't think it's very common, but I do believe there are some people out there who legitimately view these people as hateful and awful, and it's their God-given duty, it's their solemn duty to call them out, attack them, and brandish the sword. I've talked to some people who are part of the DC Writers Summit, several people, and they all have a similar story. During that Writers Summit, Mags Visaggio was part of it, and for whatever reason, got on the radar of some of the big name Twitter people at the time. I think it was the Diversity in Comics channel at the time, and got some attention. And then dozens or hundreds of people, or dozens that felt like hundreds, or maybe hundreds that felt like thousands, I don't know, went at Mags Visaggio and just attacked her mercilessly in tweets. And people, observers, watched that, were not really familiar with the Mags Visaggio background or any of the things that led up to this. No, they didn't understand the nuance, the context, whatever happened to lead to this. And all they saw was a person driven to tears from a ton of attacks. What looked like a lot of attacks, and in some cases were. Some nasty things were posted. There's no denying that. Now, people are quick to say, well, she posted some nasty stuff, and that's why she got the nasty stuff. And sure, I mean, we can trace that all the way back. The point I'm making is there's a lot of people at that Writers Summit who watched this whole thing go down and said, wow, here's bullies beating up on somebody and driving them to tears. And most people, when confronted to that, do not go, well, hang on a second. Let's get to the bottom of the origins behind this whole event. Why did this happen? What did you say that prompted this? Most people don't do that. They just see a crying person. In this case, a woman who is trans, and it creates a very easy. This person is being bullied for that, and that's hurtful and bad, and those people are awful. And I've talked to some people who posted the f those trolls out of nowhere, and they legitimately in their hearts believe that this is the best way to combat that trolling. And I said I could appreciate it. I can appreciate the sincerity there. I can appreciate somebody believing that there's a mission, that they've got to do something, and that they're committed, and that they want to defend, people who are being attacked. I can appreciate that. I too want to defend people that are being attacked. I would never do it that way by posting a random tweet saying, F Comicsgate. I think that's a absolutely ludicrous way to defend somebody. I think that neither defends anybody nor does any kind of public good, and in many cases just shakes up a hornet's nest. I don't think there's any value to that. But different people, different strokes, right? Lots of people have different ways of looking at the world, and more, it's their show, as they say. But I can appreciate somebody who thinks that they're doing some valiant good. I can appreciate that far more than somebody who's just bored and wanting to see if they can get a reaction for laughs. But that's the answer. So to the answer to the guy's question, why do comic professionals do this? Well, for the reasons I just mentioned. Also, probably because there is very little mentorship and guidance from people in the industry to go, hey, if you're managing your career, here's ways to do it without shooting yourself in the face. Because the reality is, whether or not, and this leads to downvotes, but this is just some basic advice. If you're going to any career, doesn't matter, comics, medicine, you're going to sell pretzels on the road, I don't, whatever it happens to be, you're going into it was some job. Then most people, most companies, if you happen to be working for that pretzel by the road selling company, most companies will look at your stability. And what they mean by that are like, are you prone to weird irrational fits? Are you going to write crazy things? Are you going to have social media that you have to then go scrub? And it's easy to accidentally post some jokes that maybe go a little farther, portray you out of context again, like a bit of a loon. And so it's rarely helpful for your career to do that, to post things that are really antagonistic, really inflammatory, because they make you look unstable. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you post a post that say like, I hate murderers and wish they would all die, I'm taking a stand against murderers. I mean, okay, most people could probably agree with that. Like, who wouldn't agree, sure, nobody likes murder, but it's still not something an employer wants to see on your Twitter feed, even if they agree with you, even if even if what you're saying makes logical sense. They don't want to see that. They also don't want they don't want to see you saying things like, what I would like to banish from this earth forever in a fiery pit of despair, pistachios. I hate pistachios. They're the worst nut. Oh God, I hate them so much it makes me burn up inside. Like, don't post stuff like that. People don't like to see stuff like that. Even if they don't like pistachios, they don't like that. That's, you sound like a crazy person. And in comics, there are no mentors, there's no leaders, there's no guidance, there's no editors, there's no whoever this job might be to say, hey, as a bit of advice, don't post crazy stuff, even if you say things like, I hate the Nazis. I mean, everybody hates the Nazis. Nobody wants the Nazis around. I mean, most nobody wants the Nazis around. Still, you don't want that popping up on your Twitter feed. You don't want that there. That's not where it belongs. And I know some people will argue that, hey, no, if I don't post that there, it's like the Nazis win. No, they don't. We're not keeping score based on Twitter posts. That's not the world doesn't like, if people stop posting that stuff, it's not like, suddenly Germany or Alabama or wherever the Nazis live now, it's not like they are going to go, oh my God, guys, great news. Great news. Nobody is tweeting about how they hate us anymore. Our time is now. We're good. Everybody, let's go. Quick, let's take Texas. No, nobody, that's not how it works. So why do people post crazy stuff? Boredom. They don't know any better. A couple true believers out there, but generally, mostly boredom. They're looking for attention. And is that lousy? Yeah. And should somebody step in? Yeah, somebody absolutely should step in. Who's that person? Beats me. Somebody, probably one of their bosses, I would say. Anyway, what do you think? Leave a comment below. Maybe you have another answer that I didn't give. I'd love to hear it. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Most importantly, thanks for listening.